Well, good morning, everyone. We are looking forward to a lovely day of learning and collaboration around organizational practices that will strengthen the teaching and learning and literacy in mathematics. Okay, maybe that's not exactly what the song said, but music certainly does encourage all of us. The lyrics encourage all of us to have a lovely day. In fact, the opening slide is from the cover of the children's book, if you had written by the late singer and songwriter Bill Withers, and I encourage each of you to check it out. As collaborative leaders, it is important to leverage our influence and resources as we continuously strive to transform professional learning into everyday, high-quality instructional practices in each Michigan classroom. And in order to connect over the next 2 days, let's get a sense of who's on this journey with us and who's in the room with us. So if you're here representing a local district, teacher, administrator, would you please stand? Any local district representatives? All right, let's give them a nice welcome. If you are a coach, specialist, or consultant in the area of math and or literacy, because we know we wear multiple hats, would you please stand? Woo. Thank you. If you are one of our partners, because this work, again, doesn't happen without hard work and dedication and strong partnerships throughout the state. So if you're representing MDE or one of our statewide organizations that are partnering with us in this important work, would you please stand? Any of our partners here this morning? Way to carry the weight on your shoulders. Thank you for being here. And we also have our ISD leaders here. So if you're part of an ISD or RESA, would you please stand? Thank you. I hope you made note of our colleagues and various stakeholders standing, because throughout this event, you will have opportunities to connect or reconnect with the revised pre-K through 5 organizational practices while developing relationships and networking. I'm going to advance the slide here. Thank you. I'm Alicia Fly, for those of you who don't know me, and my current role is Assistant SUP Chief Academic Officer for the Macomb Intermediate School District. Throughout my educational career, I've had the privilege of serving as a classroom teacher, an elementary principal, a middle school principal, and various central office roles. My work as an educator has covered the spectrum from working in upper middle class suburban school districts to high poverty, high minority districts. However, this morning, I have the honor of welcoming you today as chair of the General Education Leadership Network, known as GELN. Thank you. Many of you also wear multiple hats and realize that our collective experiences and diverse leadership roles contribute to the strength of our team. Yes, our team. As situations require, you may have to establish a vision, inspire others, advocate for students. I know you all appreciate how I could keep going with this list. And speaking of teams and leadership roles, this is the perfect opportunity to introduce 2 of our team leaders, and it's my pleasure to recognize and express appreciation for their leadership, and just a great honor to work with them. We're pleased to have with us this morning Dr. John Severson, who is the Executive Director of MAISA. And this gentleman, I feel like we're attached at the hip, but definitely appreciate the hard work and partnership from Dr. Michael Yoakum, who is the director of GELN. And I certainly would like to acknowledge, because the dedication and the hard work, because a lot of this does not happen without the commitment of our early literacy and early math task force members. If you're on either of those task force, would you please stand? Thank you. Your work continues to be amazing, and we appreciate your time and dedication. As we move to the next slide, as you can see, our mission, vision, and drivers for GELN as an organization, we're committed to collaborative leadership that works toward excellence and equity in education, while focusing on improving outcomes for every student and by leveraging capacity and building sustainable systems. Our organization's commitment to better outcomes for all Michigan students is evidenced by the example of work, resources, and tools that you will be exploring around organizational practices. On the next slide, you may already be familiar with GELN's other essentials, such as essential instructional practices in literacy from birth to 12. It's been, again, amazing to watch how that work has grown. Essential coaching for elementary literacy, essential instructional practices for early mathematics, pre-K through 5. However, when we talk about systems impact, it made sense for the next focus or phase of this work regarding the suite of resources was to focus and to think strategically about ways to implement school-wide, center-wide essential practices in both literacy and mathematics. And again, that will be the focus of the 2 days we're spending together. When we think about systems work and systems, and as you're engaged in conversations and thinking about your system level plans, reflect on the definition of systems and ask yourselves, is our work coherently organized? Is there a clear purpose? Are the elements strategically connected? Shortly, Susan and Rusty will walk us through and provide more specific information regarding the expectations and goals for our 2 days together. As state and local district leaders, we certainly recognize and appreciate the fact that we are all on the same team. And it will be our collective efforts that will ultimately lead to sustained systemic improvements in literacy and mathematic opportunities or outcomes for all Michigan students. As an organization, we value and appreciate our partnerships with the Michigan Department of Education and other statewide partners, as you'll see listed on the screen. I know this work is so deep and comprehensive. I know this list isn't inclusive of all of our partners. I would also be remiss if I did not acknowledge the collaboration with our other MAISA networks, such as ECAN, MISH, MEDAL, SEILN, and the work that they're doing regarding improving, working together to improve math and literacy outcomes for students. We are truly better together. Again, we are all members of an incredible team with the common goal of improving literacy and math outcomes for all Michigan students. So on behalf of GELN, welcome, and I wish each of you a lovely day of learning and collaboration. And I hope to see you, that head bobbing in the hallways as you're channeling lovely day and Bill Withers as you move around this beautiful facility. Now it is my pleasure to introduce two of our amazing key leaders in this work. They are familiar faces to many of you. So at this time, I'd like to turn things over to Susan Townsend, who's the MAISA Project Director for Literacy, and Rusty Anderson, who's the MAISA Project Director for Early Mathematics.
Good morning, friends. was decent. I thought Alicia, I know. We'll get there. We have a long time together. I'm Rusty Anderson, Project Director for Early Mathematics, joined by Susan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. It's so great to see so many of you. I'm Susan Townsend. I'm the Literacy Project Director for MAISA.
Susan and I are going to get us into the work this morning by providing an overview of the day, which Susan will do in just a second, and then we'll get our feet a little bit wet into the instructional or the organizational practices before we invite our dear friend Allison on stage to get a little deeper. Our agenda.
Our agenda for today, it's in your folder. So if you want to take a peek, you'll see the structure. And our goal is to really immerse you into the practices, which we'll share a little bit more in a few minutes, but really get you thinking about how does this align with what you do?
You'll notice on the agenda, there are breakouts in the afternoon. We're going to have a lovely lunch in this space, and after lunch, there are breakout rooms where you'll have some choice and be able to attend a session that suits the needs that you and or your team have. Let's dive in. Take a minute to read the quote on the screen. The slide Alicia had up is absolutely correct. It's about coherence, clarity, and organizational systems, which is what we're here to talk about today. Through all of that work, it's important not to lose sight of we are in a people business. This is about human beings, and the better that human beings feel and are treated, the better the work will be. We'll keep that lens as we continue to move forward.
And Alicia talked about and used the word collective. Collectively, that's how we get this work done. Our purpose is to provide a common foundation for our group around the value statements and the two focus areas around the organizational practices for today. When we dig into those throughout the next 2 days, again, we want you to think about how do we do this collectively? Many of you came with teams, and that is a foundational piece that's important to move it forward.
We have two broad outcomes for this next 45 minutes where Susan and I will be facilitating the group. They are, number one, one great piece about the document we're going to explore over the next 2 days is that there are value statements and organizational practices. It's important to know that those two things exist, and it connects to our second outcome. In addition to those existing, we're hoping to make connections to how the value statements actually influence the ways that we enact the practices themselves. Practices are words on paper. We hope to solidify value statements that help us enact those in ways that are productive for the children that we serve. That will be our plan for the next bit of time.
It has been a journey when we think about the creation of these organizational practices. We could not have done any of this work without our lead researchers. Dr. Christy Cooper-Stein and Dr. Melissa Usiak were originally working with the Literacy Task Force to create the first set of organizational practices for literacy. Then we were so excited because it brought an opportunity when the Math Essentials were created to think about how do we include math so we're not giving our educators, our leaders, another set of organizational practices, but how do they work together? And we were very blessed at that time to bring in Dr. Fox-Rosnick to support us and support Dr. Cooper-Stein, Christy Cooper-Stein, and Dr. Melissa Usiak in thinking about how that gets done. And here we are with our new organizational set of practices, which we are so excited about, and we're so excited that you're all here again today to dig deeper into them with us.
So let's take a minute to think about our day, what we're here for, and what we hope to walk away with. So with a partner at your table, there are 2 prompts that you could utilize to chat about. They are, I'm excited to be here today because, or you could choose the prompt, one thing I hope to walk away with. And I know I said partner, but let's just give everybody a chance at the table to not only say something, but also hear what everybody is thinking. So you have 2 prompts, choose your favorite, round robin at your table, and we'll bring it back together in about 3 minutes. Let's collect 3 thoughts from the group just to get an idea of where we are as a collective on what we hope to walk away with or what we're interested in thinking about. Who might be willing to offer something that either you said or something epic you heard someone at your table say? We'll take 3. Who could be our 3 brave people this morning? 1, thank you. We're looking for 2 more.
We have one back there.
Okay, 2, thank you, Kate, and 1 more. 3, thank you. Go ahead.
We said we're excited about this being a reset and re-energizing the work of early math and early literacy through the systems lens. And just over COVID, we kind of felt like a lot of things got pushed aside, but the room and the energy feels like we're back.
Yeah, great, thank you. So as Susan would say, this document existed with only literacy prior to COVID, and there was an official launch for the work prior to that. But as you all know, 2020 put a pause on many, many things. So it actually gave us an opportunity to reset, include mathematics, and start again. Thank you.
Good morning. We had 2 different people at our table say that they were here with their counterpart, ELA and math, and interested to see how those work together.
Yeah, don't get in a fight. We're friends.
I mean, look, Rusty and I are
Yeah,
up here
it's
presenting
okay.
side by side.
It's okay. Yeah, we are really, really, really excited to have not only teams in the room. Too often we do work in silos, so putting a team together is such a privilege. And also to include literacy and mathematics in the same room, which doesn't happen that often, and we hope to change that narrative. Great. And 3?
To piggyback on that, we also talked about being excited that our team is here. So we're representing an ISD, and our instructional services group is here. So we've got early literacy coaches and MTSS systems work, instructional technology, and our directors. So we're really excited to see how this all comes together, and we each play a role in this.
Yeah, so perfect.
Collective impact, collective conversation is going to move this work forward, and the thinking.
Yeah. So we'll use those to launch us into this morning and thinking deeper about the work. Values drive our behaviors. So as some of you know, I grew up on Apple Farm. In a beautiful place called Kent City, Michigan. I think we have some friends here from Kent City, actually. While I grew up on the farm, it taught me a lot of things, specifically watching how my dad moved throughout the year when it came to all the work that the farm had him doing. A couple of things always surfaced for me. They were, he always moved with grace and a slow pace. There were 3 million things that had to be done every single day. Every minute was filled with something, from the time that the sun peeked over the trees to the time that it went down, and usually after. There was never chaos, though. There was never a sense of panic. It was grace, slow pace, knowing that things were going to get done if we continued the journey. Another thing that I learned while watching my dad was to think about and control the controllable. Oftentimes, hail caused a lot of problems on the farm. As some of you may know, when a hailstorm hits, the apples are basically juice after that, which is pretty detrimental to the farm and the whole season and all of the work that was done. Out of his control, though I did see a lot of nights where he would stay up watching the weather, worrying about the weather, and thinking about all the things that could happen, he stayed the course, and he was only able to think about the things that were in his control. The things that I learned watching my dad hopefully continue for me in my journey. Though our work is a little bit different, these things are values that I hold. I try my best, Susan, not to run around in panic, even though there are 7 million things that need to be done. There are things in our work that are out of our control. It's a choice. Do we worry about them, or do we set them aside and continue forward? And in our work, we know there are setbacks. In our work, we know that there's the next shiny thing. Education is infamous for finding the next shiny thing. We hope the message that you hear today is that there isn't a next shiny thing. It's about continuing to do the work, honor the people, and get better. These are values that my life has taught me that I try my best to bring to life every day. We're going to give you a chance to try that on, thinking forward, because our document has values. And we hope those values, like my life lessons taught me, are the North Star for how we enact the actual organizational practices. So let's take a second just to think about what are some values that you might hold. The way you were raised, where you were raised, those things taught you things that you're living with today. What might be a value that you hold? And in what ways might that value influence the ways in which you work or live? When you feel ready, we're just going to chat with a partner that's seated next to you. You can share your value, how that value came to be, and what are the ways that that value influences the ways that you move today, work or life. When ready, feel free to chat.
If we could bring our conversations to a close. Values that they hold, values that you hold, and the influence that they have. Rusty's story really hit home the first time he said that to me. He shared it with me, and I thought, wow. When I put all those pieces together, move with grace and slow. A lot of you know me, and I like to move fast, and people need to slow me down. And then stay the course. Our work in education is fast and furious, and it is easy to jump into the next thing. But this course that we're setting the stage with around these practices are the foundational piece. So as things come along, it's about the conversation of how does this connect? What value does it bring to our focus areas? And how does it influence the work we do as educators? His story really puts that and frames it out nicely. And it brings it back to what we do. We're here for our educators and our children across the state of Michigan. And if we hold that true to our heart with everything that comes along, and we focus on these research-informed practices and have conversations about if we do A, and we're holding true to our course around these practices, what value does that bring us? And if it isn't a true value, then let's have another conversation about what that really means. Stay the course, move slowly, and have conversations around what's needed to move this work forward. As Rusty stated earlier, and as you can see in your document, we added to the new document the values around these organizational practices. We want you to take time right now individually to read the value statements in these organizational practices. What is one that might stand out for you? It may change over time, but what is one that stands out for you this morning?
It may be helpful to number them if you're okay with writing in a really nice and clean document. Or simply remembering which one you would like to think more about, because we're going to have an opportunity to dive in. So we'll move forward in about 30 seconds. Success for you right now is, which number do I want to spend a little more time with? Everybody have a number? All right, we're going to move into your favorite reading series from your childhood in Choose Your Own Adventure. You will be able to go to a space in the room identifying with the number of the value you want to dive a little deeper into. We will have ones to our right in the corner over here, twos in the back, threes in the middle, fours over here to my left, and fives in the back by Andrew. Feel free to wave, Andrew. He's not good. Oh, there he is. There he is. A couple of things. We are going to just pack and stack your stuff, push it to the center a little bit if you'd like. You will need to bring the organizational practices document, something to write with, and an index card from your basket. I know their chairs have moved a little, so you may have to borrow one from a neighboring table if needed. You need three things: your practices, something to write with, and an index card. Don't go yet. Here's what we're going to do. On the screen, you'll see our process. You're going to create little campfires. It's going to be nice. You're going to find two friends to make a trio once you get to your space. Everybody in your space will be thinking about the same value. Find two friends, make a trio, picture a nice little fire where you'll kind of stand and talk about some things. You're going to introduce yourself. That's probably important. Maybe your name, your role, something you like to do for fun. And then once you're in that space with your trio and you've introduced yourselves, we're just going to invite you to look back to the screen or the stage for the next set of directions. Once you have your trio, we're going to stay here for about 25-ish minutes. So if you want to find a table to sit at, don't take anybody's stuff, or if you're comfortable standing, feel free to do that. But we'll know that the group is ready when everyone is relatively quiet, looking back at Susan and I. Any questions prior to us moving a bit? Yes? Can you show us where numbers are? Yes.
1 is over in this corner. 2 will be in the back corner. 3 is in the center. 4 is up here. And 5 is in that back corner.
Any other clarifying questions prior to movement? Bring your stuff, find your friends, introduce yourself. All right, so now what are we gonna do now that we have some new BFFs? Here's the plan. On the screen, we'll have 4 different phases. We're gonna have about 20-ish minutes to do this. Here's our plan. First, you'll talk about the value, what, why, how. What does it say? What are some key words or phrases? Why does it stand out to you? And how might it connect to your context? You'll make that efficient, but just kind of get into the detail of the value that you chose. Next, knowing that our day today is centered on organizational practice 1, leadership teams, and organizational practice 4, professional learning systems, we're going to dive into the words of those a little bit. Don't feel overwhelmed. It's not intended that you're masters in both of these and have all the bullets memorized. We understand that it's probably a first read for a lot of us. So be okay with messy, be okay with not knowing, and just be okay living in the dialogue. So we're going to read practice 1, which is on page 2. And then with your trio, talk about what are the ways that the value you chose might guide the work of this practice. What are the ways the value you chose might guide the work of the practice? And then we'll repeat the process with organizational practice 4, professional learning systems. What are the ways the value might guide the work of the practice? You're gonna not finish this conversation, okay? I'm just gonna say it now. You're not gonna be done, and that's okay. We'll give you a prompt when there's about 5 minutes remaining so that you can do the 4th thing. The 4th thing is, what's the most important point we wanna take away with practice 1? And on your index card, you'll write that down. On the other side of the index card, what's the most important we wanna take away with practice 4 with respect to the value? And you'll write that down. That card is going to be your scaffold for when you go back to your home base and share what you talked about in your group. Values, practice 1, practice 4, summarize. Then we'll go back to home base and share all kinds of cool stuff. What questions might we have? Susan, what did I miss?
I think you covered it nicely. Rusty and I will walk around in case there are questions or anything you may need as you're going through the process.
And it's going to be fast, so don't feel like you need to finish it. Just kind of move through, and we'll be right where we need to be. Have fun, make yourself comfortable, and we'll bring it back together in just a bit.
Okay, if we could look up in the front, please. Hopefully that re-energized you after sitting for a few minutes, but also got your brain thinking about essential practice 1 and 4. We're going to now give you an opportunity to talk at your tables utilizing your note card that you created. Here's the protocol. We're going to ask that the group share using your note card and start with practice 1. If I'm sitting at a table, Rusty and I are at a table, I may start and I'm going to read what I put on my note card for practice 1, and then Rusty's going to add his thinking based on what he put. So it's kind of that build upon. It's like add to the story, which we all love to do with our kids. And then once you finish practice 1, you'll move into and do the same procedure for practice 4. What questions do you have? Okay, have fun. Again, we know that you probably didn't finish all of the conversation you wanted to have, but we're so excited because we have a day and a half to be together to continue this conversation. And it will be amazing when you reflect back on just this morning's discussion to see how your thinking evolved around organizational practice 1 and 4.
We are privileged today and tomorrow to have 2 of our authoring researchers with us to continue the conversation and gain, for us, a deeper understanding of the work.